having these kind of connections and networks where we can support each other so that we don't feel like we're in competition with each other, because I think we all have very specific and singular voices that are all so important, and that we support each other with those voices. So I think it's just about bringing the next generation up, and also, crewing. And being very conscious of that and making sure everybody that you bring into this family has a priority to bring in other women and other people of color. Like, I think that's something you can do tomorrow.
I haven't yet directed an episode of TV without a mentee, a female mentee. At least you feel like if you get nothing else right, you left that on the field.
I've been mentoring women directors for a long time, and I am very happy to say that so many of them are working all the time.
Oh, that's great.
And it certainly hasn't harmed me working.
No.
It hasn't. There is work out there, plenty of work. I think if you're in a position to hire, you need to be really conscious of that and grab the hand of the next generation. When I started directing, if I thought we'd still be discussing this in 2018, I would have said absolutely not. And the fact that it is still an issue is just staggering. But I do think things are changing. It's the first time I really feel they're changing. And for me, it's about an equal playing field. It shouldn't be harder for our daughters to direct than for our sons. It should be the same. It's difficult for everyone. Let's make it equally difficult.
But it's true about crewing, and
yes,
so
you have to be really conscious.
My biggest thing is education. So look around this room. Every single camera except one is manned by a guy. Sorry, no offense, but I'm just saying, in season 3 of my show, I asked my producer and DP, I said, I need a female key grip. There is no fucking way that this doesn't exist. So I got one, and she came and I met her. I loved her instantly. Her name's Amy Snell. And we talked, and she told me about the union, that there's like, the numbers are so small.
And they make it difficult.
But here's the thing, when you're crewing, there are so many jobs that young women don't know about. My focus puller, my camera department, all of it. I just want people to learn about the jobs that are available. Why is it a guy
Get
thing?
the skills.
It's
and
like,
get the skills.
It's also, I heard in so many of the stories that you guys were just telling, you didn't even know that was an option.
Right.
So I do think that a moment like this is really important, and knowing what the options are. And I do think some of it has to do with the fact that we are still fighting against a system that makes little girls grow up to dream of their wedding and not of the many, many things that they can do in the world, and how they're going to shape their lives and what kind of life they want to be living and what they want to do with their hands and they want to do with their minds. And I think, that's part of what is changing. And then we support with, okay, and here are the places you can go.
I guess it makes a great difference to the chemistry of a set.
Oh my God.
Because I started, when I started directing the BBC, there were no women on the set, and it was a lot of talented, good, but grumpy guys, and you would have to deal with an entrenched, perspective. In my first movie in New York, Ellen Kuras was the DP, and there were all kinds of women on set.
Homeland, our crew is very 50-50. You come on the set and you're like, wow, because 50-50 feels very female, because we're so used to it being so out of balance in that way.
It's a great cultural shift, and we do have to remember where we came from, and it was not that long ago. As I said, when I grew up, I never saw another female face, and little by little things did change, maybe, and when it did change, I think crews were so much happier. Because it used to be like me and a whole bunch of guys in a town somewhere, all with guys stuck together, and they didn't see their families, they didn't see their wives and their kids, and they were, it was like being in a boys' camp. As times changed and where we've had a little bit more, I don't think that it was some kind of conspiracy where people were trying to keep women down and there was like a secret handshake about it. I think it was just nobody was thinking.
Wasn't thought of.
I didn't think of it. I mean, I grew up making movies. It never occurred to me as a director. It never occurred to me to seek out women crew members. I saw the guys that I worked with, the guys that I knew that I thought were doing great work, and it never occurred to me, and I'm almost ashamed of that.
No.
Until recently, where I realized that you actually have to make an effort.
Yes.
And it isn't just going to happen because you think it's wrong and then you don't change anything. I mean, you actually have to make an effort, mostly to allow women to have those first jobs and those second jobs.
I find now I get calls about episodic TV, and then I meet on a pilot and I can feel what I imagine is like, but can I give you this? Like I had a producer say, there's football in the scene. Can you? I'm like, I can do football. I can, or someone said, this might be good. You don't have to blow anything up. I was like, I can blow shit up.
Yeah.
So and I understand it. If I'm writing a pilot, this is a big deal. This is years and years in the past, possibly, and years potentially in the future. You want to feel like you're giving it to someone, but I think there might be something going on in the thinking of what it means to hand that to a woman. I think there might be a hiccup. Maybe I even have the hiccup, I don't know, but I can feel it when it's...
Gender bias psychology is so entrenched that we even have it too, and we don't even realize it yet.
Right.
So, I mean, that cultural shift is slow to happen, but it happens through, a learning process. And women are seen as a risk. Women directors are seen as a risk, and I don't really understand why, but it's it means that people
I'm sorry,
make
I just
pulling
had
the strings.
such a funny thought. I was like, I know women are so emotional because our president right now is so not emotional. I had this thought of like,
You're not tweeting in the middle of the night, Tracee?
like he just is very emotional. But anyway,
I think the reason that they're seen as a risk in some ways is because they were foreigners.
Right.
They just were people who looked different, and they spoke a different language, and we just didn't know what they were going to do when we handed them $10 million. And hopefully that really is just an ingrained psychology that shifts with knowledge.
And they remind me of my scary mother.
I do think that.
Feel it happen. Like,
I don't
want to. Are you okay if we do this? I'm like, okay, so you're the producer. And being a well-known woman, also, I can feel the projection is like 50 things are coming at me. So the first few hours is just like, it's okay.
It's okay.
You wrote it, so
Yeah.
I'm here to serve you. I got that. I know I have a plan, so I got that. And then they kind of go,
Okay, everything's okay.
Yeah, but it's a long. I don't think men.
You've
go through
probably
that,
had
maybe.
this. Been told, we hired a woman once and it didn't work.
Yes, that's the worst.
Which
yes.
you would never say
That's-
you would never say we hired a guy once. Didn't work.
Didn't work.
No more
So
guys.
no more guys.
We're done with those guys. So I think again this idea of being lumped together rather than seen individually as individual directors. But I do feel that is indeed changing. I don't believe there's someone twirling a mustache in a back room going keep them out. I think it's much more unconscious.
Yes.
Than that.
I do agree with what you were saying too about how if the content demands a woman to have this voice because she understands the story better, then they're going to seek
I
that
also
out.
don't think stories are gender related. Like if men have directed women wonderfully in romantic comedies and romances, and if a woman is interested in directing an action piece or a comic book movie, that's fantastic. As long as that's what they want to tell, that's the story they want to tell. Like I remember directing a pilot years ago, and it didn't work. The network made us hire an actress who was totally wrong for the role, and yet that's who they wanted. So they basically said, if you don't cast her, it's never going to happen. So you end up casting the person that every instinct tells you not to do, and of course it didn't work because she was the wrong person for the role. Not a good actress, but not a good mix, and I got blackballed. So how do you dig yourself out of that?
Yes.
And that's challenging. Tenacity.
Yeah.
It's like no cannot be a possibility, and you have to just keep moving forward and go on the meetings again, and I think I developed something that got made, a pilot that got made. It was successful, but it wasn't easy. It took a while. I don't know if anyone's had that. You probably had.
Yes, I have absolutely had that a couple of times. And I think the hardest thing I always feel as a woman director I've felt in the past that I wasn't allowed to fail. Every single movie has to do well. If you do one that doesn't do well, then suddenly you can just feel your stock drop. Whereas I do feel as a male director of the same level, give them a couple of movies, let them three, let them just work it out. They're so good, let them try. So I think not being allowed to fail, and then I think the thing that I've learned to fight with is not internalizing that.
Yes.
And then, because I do think that women have turned on themselves rejection or, self-doubt, self-anger. And you have to, which I don't think men do. I don't think that men blame themselves the same way that we do if a film doesn't do well.
We're taught to.
We're taught to, and then it's internalized. So when I had my, film, a couple of them didn't do as well they were supposed to. And I always think, I've got to get myself back to that woman who had never made a movie, where nobody thought could direct.
Right.
And who is that person who had the confidence to make that first movie?
Right.
Instead of psychologically always try to get myself back. And just, and hey, if I can't get a movie made, then make a movie for nothing. Make a movie for $100,000. I think that's something that we also battle within ourselves. It's not just outside.
I think that for me, I've run into recently the experience of looking at what my leadership style is. And I think it's idiosyncratic. I don't think it has to do because I'm a woman. I think I have a specific leadership style. I have found that sometimes producers, or perhaps it's a studio executive or a producer, is confused by that. In a difficult situation, if you lob something at me that's horrible and nasty, I think they have two expectations. One is I'm going to cry and say, "You're right. Oh my God, you're so right. I'm so sorry." Or that I will bully back and punch them in the face. And I think those are the two expectations that they have. One is very a sort of typically, gender-specific masculine idea, and the other one is a very feminine idea. I don't do either of those, and I confuse people. I've found that they want to have a relationship with a leader that is easily defined for them, and they want to figure out how to get their way, and they are very confused by me not fitting into either their traditional idea of what a guy does or what a girl does.
Part of what we have to do is open up the idea on set of what a director is. They don't necessarily walk around yelling confidently, shouting out lenses to people.
With a bullhorn? Do you have a bullhorn?
Yeah, I do have a bullhorn.
And a stick.
Totally.
I'm a huge preparer, and it must be from being a choreographer, but I plan everything, and then I hope magic will happen. I hope something that I've never thought of alone in a room, but I've got to plan it all out first.
I'm the same like you. I always base each story in the research. So I just dive into that time, the characters, the story, the colors, the art, the history of whatever story I'm trying to tell, the architecture, and then from there a painting kind of comes alive, right? And I have a vision for how to tell that story visually.
I can see that. And you get it.
If you take the script away, this story is still told. I prepare myself in that way, and then I do shot lists and storyboards and overly prepare, and then get on set and it stays in my pocket usually. But I know I have that confidence if I need to go back into it that I can depend on. And then still trying to be open to seeing when you're on set, because that is where the magic happens. Things that you would never expect happen.
It's funny because it's taken me this long to realize that I don't like to do that. I do a lot of preparation, do a lot of research, and I work out a visual plan. I work out, I kind of always have key references. I want it to look like this, and those sections look like that, and have photographs and paintings and a lot of all that stuff. But I realize I actually hate, I hate to storyboard. I'll do it for an action sequence or something involving visual effects, but it's not my strong point. And I actually, I'll do shot lists and I don't stick to them.
You said it's not your strong point, or it's not what you like?
I just know what I like to do.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious.
It's not what I like to do.
Okay.
And I don't like to shot list. And I realize that I come from a very different mentality, and I've had to fight and get confidence in myself that I don't work. I work in a different way.
The thing is, I do an enormous amount of prep because season 2 was 39 and a half days, all on location, 10 plus pages a day, cross-boarded, 4 to 5 pieces of episodes a day. I was in every episode.
10 episodes, 39. I'm doing
10
How
episodes.
many? That's 4 days a week?
Yes.
Oh, that's wow.
Yeah, 2 countries.
Good Lord.
What?
2 crews, 5 Steadicam operators, all of that stuff. And I only went over 12 hours, 3 days, maybe 3, 2 that I know of. I'm only saying this not to brag. I'm saying it because I feel like this is a female skill. Like, you don't waste time. Also, it's a mother thing.
It's a mother
I'm
thing.
a single mom, and I don't want to mess around. I don't want to take marrow out of the crew. And I remember being an actor and being on a set, reporting to work at noon on a Friday, and at 11:30 Friday night, they're like, we still have 8 more scenes, and you're like, you have cold water, and you're like, none of you people have families or kids or anything. You're like, seriously.
I actually asked a lot of questions. I did a lot of prep before, and the best note I got, because I had a lot of nervousness around, I don't know how to call it a right thing. You know what I mean? I'm like, I want it. So the best note I got was make sounds and use your hands. I wanted to go like, I wanted to go, I wanted like, and I did so much of that, and it totally worked. And then by the end of the scene, I knew what that thing was called. Right. You know what I mean? And it was like, I learned to swingle. Like, it was fantastic. On our show, the thing that's fascinating is so much of the comedy is told through the editing. So directors come in, and the big thing for me is you come in and there's a way you want to tell it or think it's this way, but you have to shoot singles of everything because we're always long, and you need to do the pop, 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 pop. And that's where it all comes from. So there were so many different ways I was worried about telling the story, and I was heavy in it, and we weren't doing comedy, and it was all of those different things. I think that challenge is what I found really exciting, is how do you think of the story before and how you're going to tell it through shots so that when you get in the editing room, it's in there. Right. Yes. I found that to be the most exciting puzzle. Like, that was very exciting to me. And then to know, especially when I was in the scenes, which was, don't do that. That was like ridiculous.
I can't help it.
I think I used to worry about everything equally, including things I had no control over, like whether it would rain.
Weather?
Yeah, whether it would rain. I could worry about the rain for a very long time. And I think one of the things now is that I will worry about things I can actually have an impact on. But the things I can't, I don't spend a lot of time on. And I think, again, I tried to control a lot of things in the beginning, and I love accidents. You know, it's just an opportunity for something amazing to happen.
I wish I'd known that the technical stuff is just a means to an end, and if you don't know it, you just ask somebody, and that there's an entire team of people there who know it better than you ever will, and you simply have to know what you want. You know, and I think I would have started directing earlier with more
And the crew
confidence.
wants to be asked and empowered, I find.
Absolutely.
I did the movie with Nancy Myers 20 years ago, and I'm trying to think how many other women were probably directing giant movies. Maybe zero?
Well, Betty Thomas.
Yeah, not quite this big, but
Penny Marshall.
Yeah, Penny Marshall. But I remember her saying, however they were pounding on her, what I remember her saying is, "You've hired me to land this plane safely." I'm very open and collaborative, and I feel like I have a really good, I'm not sure what to do, what do you think? While secretly holding on to my plan.
Yeah.
But to also always have that muscle of like, at the end of the day, you've hired me to do this.
And you have to trust that.
Yeah.
I wish I'd done more sit-ups. Okay, next.